Hello everybody. First of all, thank you very much to the organisers of this event for having us here in Newcastle, and also thank you to every one of you to coming out here. It's always so nice to see your support and to see that the movement seems to be really growing a lot, not only in the bigger cities but across the country. It strikes me as very strange and very hypocritical in the way that the language that the media and our government are using since the recent wave of uprisings across Northern Africa and Western Asia. So now, all of a sudden, we have a great humanitarian concern for the people of Libya that are suffering at the hands of their government. Now, all of a sudden, we have great support for the pro-democracy activists in Egypt, in Tahrir Square. Now, all of a sudden, we are condemning, at least verbally, the actions of the Syrian government, of the Yemeni government. But of course, this does not extend to the uprisings in Bahrain and in Saudi Arabia, because in those countries, the governments are still our allies. They are still helpful friends in the region. But even in the language we are using to describe these uprisings, the new phrase is the so-called Arab Spring in the Middle East. But why do we call this area of the world the Middle East? It's not East if you live in Africa or Asia. It is only the Middle East from colonial times, from the times when Britain and European countries colonized the region. And what followed that was our demarcation of the borders in that region. Yes, this is the true role of Britain in the so-called Middle East. Not to support the will of the people in those countries, but above all to support our own interests and to extend our political, military and economic domination over the people of those countries. We have to recognize that these uprisings in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Yemen, in Libya, in Syria, and across the region are not only uprisings against the governments of those countries, but they are also uprisings against British and North American domination in that region. The people of those countries are sending a very clear message to our governments. We refuse to accept your domination over our lives for a single day longer. That is what the people of these countries are saying. And when we hear the statements from David Cameron and other members of the government about their concern for human rights in the region, about their concern for fulfilling some kind of moral duty in the region, We do not have to look much further than Palestine to examine Britain's true role in the region, how Britain is really viewed by the people of these countries. When I think back to my own time living in Palestine, when I would introduce myself as a person from England, as a person from London, one of the first things people would say to me would be, well, it's very nice to meet you, and thank you for the Balfour Declaration. And they're referring to a document signed by our foreign minister at the time, Arthur Balfour, which promised, on behalf of Britain, the colonial power at the time, the land of the Palestinian people to the Zionist movement. Yes, this is the real role of Britain in the Arab world. Not to support people when they rise up to throw off the chains of oppressive regimes and dictatorships, but to support the oppressor, to support the colonizer, and to support our own interests. Now, on the drive here from Manchester, I was listening to a hip-hop album by one of my favourite groups, a hip-hop group from the United States called Dead Prez. And in the album, there is an interlude where a speaker uses an analogy for imperialism. And he is talking about a hunter who is trying to hunt wolves. And he says the hunter makes a small cut on his finger to put his blood onto a knife. And the wolves smell the blood that is on that knife and move towards it to satisfy their hunger. When they lick the blood off of the knife, they cut their tongue, causing it to bleed. They then begin to drink this blood because they think they're enjoying a nice meal and end up drinking their own blood to death. And I think this can be used for an analogy. When the British government talk about sending arms to rebel movements, currently we're arming rebels in Libya, what do we really mean? We're concealing the hidden dagger of the privatization of the natural resources of Libya, of an attempt to re-establish a waning, a declining political domination in this region. Of course, we must show solidarity with all people rising up, including the Libyan people who rose up so bravely. But how do we show solidarity with these people? Do we show it by sending NATO Apaches to bomb the Libyan people? Do we show it by dropping bombs that kill Libyans in the east of the country and kill Libyan people in the west of the country? In the case of the latter, these victims do not even matter according to the media, because we have been taught that any Libyan person who supports the Libyan government is no longer a human being because of the actions of that government.